you, Sora, for the intro. Hope everyone enjoyed their lunch. It's good to be here. It's good to be back in this community. It's amazing to see how much the community have grown together with MoEngage overall as a company. So the topic I'm going to talk about today is very specific, and it's a little bit technical. Push notification delivery. But I hope everyone here will get and be able to understand the technicalities in order to equip yourself with the skill sets and the actual know-hows of push. And as a marketer, increase your accountability and reliability for whatever brand or company you work at. Next, please. So I've worked over 5 years with currently JDID, but previously also with other e-commerce brands, specializing in CRM marketing and helping them build personalized marketing automations with the mindset of creating value for our customers and eventually generate incremental sales and revenue. Next, please. So the rundown of this material is very simple and straightforward. We'll go briefly over what push as a channel is, just to remind us all of its value. We then want to understand the technical aspects of how push gets delivered, so the mechanisms and what happens in the back end. We then want to get into measurements. We're all data-driven marketers. We want to understand what metrics should we look at when we're dealing with push, and specifically why reach is also important. Then we want to deep dive on what actually hinders or improve push notification delivery. And last and most importantly, what all of us as marketers can do and take action that we can apply tomorrow to start improving our push delivery. Next, please. So before I go into this, I want to start off with a story. Actually, the exact term push delivery gives me a lot of PTSD. So let me tell you why. For the previous company I worked for, back in 2018, right? The company I worked for was making our biggest event ever, right? We have a lot of money to spend. So we were planning this anniversary event. And the whole company is focused towards making this big event happen and to generate, the usual metrics, a lot of purchases, concurrent traffic, we want a lot of GMV, we want a lot of word of mouth, and in general, exposure, right? So imagine the whole company focusing on this project, all the product people, all the vouchers, the beautiful landing pages, the banners. We even invited BTS and all the Korean boy bands to come here, and dance, which everyone loves. And as manager for CRM, the ask from leaders were very simple and straightforward. Can you help send a push to all of our existing users and make sure they know this event is happening? Yeah. So it was simple. I was quite arrogant at that time. I was like, oh, yeah, sure. We got this, right? So we started sending pushes, right? Long story short, the topic of push delivery came out. We realized that we can only deliver 60% of our push notice to our existing user base, which in that scale is a tragedy, right? So suddenly, all departments in the company has their attention towards the CRM team, right? We have done a lot of good stuff. We have worked overnight, and you can't simply tell this to our customers, right? So that feeling gives me PTSD until today. It's like guns pointing at you. It's like, come on, man. So that's the story, yeah? And now let's get into the material. I think just a bit of refresher. on push notif. I think it's a part of our daily lives. We receive it on an hourly, even minute basis. We know there are many types of push available to us, from promotional, which is most common, to transactional, which complements our app platforms, and enhances our shopping experiences. Even the way we send push notif varies. We can create static segments, send broadcast pushes. Now, with technologies like MoEngage, it is very accessible for us to create automated marketing, and even to more sophisticated, logic such as geo-targeting. We know push is very effective. It's one click away from your platform and app, which every marketer likes, right? And I'm sure your business counterpart also likes push. I believe many of you app marketers can relate, having urgent requests last minute because they feel that their campaign is always important. Next, please. So then we want to understand push metrics. I can almost guarantee that many app marketers here are very, what's the word? Engagement and conversion metrics, right? They're very common. And these are the metrics that we like to share and report to our leaders because it is the fruits of our labor and innovation, right? We want to tell people that, hey, the content I made, the design I made, the push logic and segment I made can create a lot of noise and exposure for whatever campaign you're selling. But what is often overlooked is reach, right? When in fact, it is the building block and foundation of your overall push strategy. And the phenomena is, as your business scale, as your user base grows, if you don't tackle reach, then you will have a big problem, right? The magnitude of the problem will scale as your business scales. So this is why push delivery comes into play and why it's significant, right? Not a lot of us understand how push is actually being delivered, and there is also a lack of urgency for us to look at this metric overall, right? Next, please. So then we want to look at this chart. It's a very simple chart, which is a benchmark of how much of push delivery, right? Across industries, we see that there's only up to 70% of push getting delivered. This is across all marketing tools that's available to us worldwide. And it's eye-opening, right? Because for every 100 customers, you can only send to 70. And then when that happens, you need to cover up the remaining 30 with additional channels, which costs money, which will impact your overall ROI, right? So it's relevant to our businesses, and we should pay attention to delivery. Next. And the implications are quite obvious. App push as a channel is just a vehicle for us to communicate to our users, right? It's just one tool that we use that's very accessible and easy to use. With technology like MoEngage, the UI is very intuitive. It's very easy to use. Any marketer can tap into push and start sending, blasting, right? But then we derive that general concept into more specific implications, like you're losing opportunity when you cannot reach users because essentially you can't talk to them. There's also decreased product stickiness for business models who are looking for more frequent engagement with their apps, like commerce, like banking, ride-hailing. It will definitely impact your product stickiness. And eventually, people will churn either from your app or your business completely when you can't reach them. Next. So how do we exactly measure, or how should we exactly measure push delivery, right? Just one slide. Next. This slide hopefully will diminish any misconceptions about delivery metrics. So what we oftenly see in other tools that is not MoEngage is what is called successfully sent. Now, this term is very misleading because successfully sent, instantly you think, okay, it's safe, it's delivered, the user receives the message. But no, actually, the word sent refers to a server or a domain sending the message, but does not mean the user device receiving the message. It's two very different things. So what do we look at? We should look at impressions. MoEngage gives us this transparency, and impressions tells us how many devices actually receive the push. Now, soon we're going to go into what causes a drop-offs in terms of delivery, and we'll see that there are so many factors that influences delivery, and usually the drop-off between send and impressions is also quite significant, right? So we should make impressions, the parameter for us to measure delivery. Next. Okay, next. So before we deep dive into what are the actual factors that hinders delivery, let's first understand how push is actually getting delivered. The first two steps are very familiar to us marketers. It's what we do on a daily basis. You go into MoEngage, you click create campaign, you upload your copy, your banners, and so on, and landing pages, and then you click send. But what happens after send is what most people aren't educated on. And here you see a very rare term used, which is FCM. FCM is actually Google service. It's their push notification service, and it's fully embedded to all Android devices. And we know how the Indonesian market is flooded with Android devices. Now, from there, FCM will send the messages that you signal them to send to the devices that intends to receive these messages. Yeah? So there's multiple steps. Between the third and fourth steps, there are many factors that influences, which we'll go into now. Next. So, also a very interesting phenomenon, and something I only knew after that incident, the story I told you earlier, is that Chinese OEMs, I'm sure you're familiar with these brands, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, they're budget smartphones, they're very accessible and very widely used. They compete in this very unique aspect of battery efficiency. And for any of these phones that and Android devices, I mean, it's obvious that when you're trying to push your prices low and affordable, you can't compete with hardware, right? You can't just, put bigger batteries, more efficient batteries. It will increase the price. So what they unfortunately do is they cut unnecessary processes within your operating system itself. And one of them is the push notification service, right? Next. Now, obviously, network is also a factor. The stronger your network, if you have 4G, you're pretty much good. But if you have 2G or 3G, that will affect the number of impressions that you will get out of your push campaigns. Next. And then there are other factors, more technical. Won't go too deep into it, but time to live is really the amount of retries the server try to send from FCM to your device. And also send time. Naturally, during the day, if you send, most phones will be active and connected to some sort of network versus midnight or when users are traveling and so on and so on. But yeah, send time is also a factor. Next, please. So what we have heard so far, what I've explained so far are factors that are, system limitations, right? they're, they're something we cannot control. We as marketers feel like, yeah, so what? We can't do anything about it. But an interesting phenomenon based on statistics that CRM people, CRM practitioners, and also people working at MoEngage found out is that there's an interesting correlation between the ability of a device to receive push with how recently they engage with your platform, right? So in this chart, we can see that people who engage with your app, 80% of them will likely to be able to receive push within 1 day. And as you can see, as the y-axis goes down, it deteriorates significantly even after 1 week, right? So the question becomes then, so we know that in order for us to optimize delivery, we need people to come to our app. But at the same time, for us to engage them to come to our app, we need high delivery. So it becomes this weird chicken and egg situation, right? But luckily, we have solutions. We have solutions, and I've oversimplified some tactics and strategies that we marketers can implement. Next. Number one, push amp. I think Ravi went over it earlier, and we'll go into a slide about it later. And secondly, effective app engagement strategies, which is much more relevant for us marketers because we can implement it tomorrow. Next. Okay, so push amp. I swear I don't work for MoEngage, guys, but this is really valuable. Okay. Essentially, what push amp is that it is a proprietary feature that MoEngage had since early 2016, I think Ravi mentioned. And I believe they released this feature somewhere around 2017 or early 2018. There was push amplification, which is stage 2. Much more recent, they released Push Amp Plus, which integrates OEM partnerships, meaning that they actually work directly with these OEMs, such as Xiaomi, Oppo, to establish, I would say, I don't know what, it's just they make deals, I guess. And other than that, they also utilize, a lot of technology, AI, and customizations to generate a fallback channel for the servers to actually send the push to the device. Next. And taking results from JDID, just by simply using MoEngage and utilizing its push amp features, we were able to boost our delivery rates by up to 15%. Yeah. And ever since then, our push becomes a much more effective channel for us to generate the metrics that we want, the business metrics. Next, please. So here comes the part where it's where us marketers can really pay attention to and apply to our businesses and brands. Next. So onboarding, I'm sure everyone here hears this term a lot. It's very commonly used in the marketing world. Everyone knows it's a good thing. But I want to contextualize this term to our current topic, which is delivery. So we know that push can be a very effective, but also a destructive channel depending on how you use it. And what I want to point out today is your first message is actually the most crucial message that you will send to your users. Really, first impressions matters for brands. Access to app is really easy. Uninstalling app is really easy. The last thing you want is to spam users with irrelevant content. Wrong time, no personalization. It feels mundane and repetitive. And the last thing we want is for users to uninstall or even opt out from the notification um, within your Android device, right? You can do that. So my first tip is utilize this opportunity to really set the tone and the runway for a long-term relationship with your customers, right? Find that micro moment where you can add convenience to their shopping journey or add value when they feel like it's not enough for them to convert, yeah? And different industries can manifest this idea differently and use their own tone and branding, making sure that they send this push for the customer, not for the business. Next. Again, just to follow up on onboarding, sometimes recommendations, things like that seem complex, but by data says that the more you apply personalization, exponentially the engagement will rise. Yeah. So think of a few brands that you can think of that sends really good CRM messages, recommendations. They will almost all the time use personalization. They will involve some sort of algorithm and identify your past behaviors and use that to add more value for you as a customer, not for their business, right? Next. So moving on from onboarding, say we have an awesome onboarding program on board and you have no trouble converting your customers for the first time. Now, people like to go from activation to retention when we talk about lifecycle marketing. I like to change up retention a bit, right? When customers are loyal to it with a brand, we don't actually need to do a lot, right? If they like the product, if they like our service, they will keep using our service. So I like to change the mindset of retention marketing into creating micro moments, which essentially translates into experiences that creates this aha moment for the customers that complements the already awesome service and product you're selling. And it's a huge playground for marketers, right? The core of CRM is data. CRM is essentially replacing Excel sheets with a database for our user data. And these days we have so much access to different kinds of data. The key here is to personalize and use multiple data points and to automate your marketing automations. Yeah? A good parameter or indicator I like to use to measure how personalized I am is usually with how many data points I use. So if you go into MoEngage or any CRM tool and you create segments, right? The more lines of logic that you have, the better you are doing, right? You're going in the right direction. At some point, you can't manually do that. You will have to rely on algorithm and machine learning to generate those logic for each and every customer for you to achieve one-to-one personalization. Yeah? So micro moments, auto-triggered campaign, very simple promotions, and you can go very deep. So you see promotions are very simple. You think vouchers are simple, but you can really personalize vouchers. If you're a commerce selling fashion, for example, you can look at the prices of the product they purchase. You can look at the colors of the shirts they purchase. You can look at what brands they tend to browse and purchase. So there are so many factors that you can include into your personalization tactic and logic creation to create these micro moments for users. Next. Another example, thank you messages. We think it's very straightforward and we think, so what, right? But it really helps build a connection with our customers. People like being appreciated. So messages like thank you messages, gratification messages of people earning points, and so on builds trust in the long term, right? So think of the apps that we already have, like GoFood, like Gojek, and all that. You really pay attention to these messages, right? I receive cashback, I receive points, and so on. And you don't think about it, but in the long term, that builds loyalty. And the more loyal your consumers, the more they will use your app. The more they use your app, the more push delivery you will have. Next. Again, just to highlight geotagging, I think it's a very cool feature. Any industry or business that can utilize this feature should try it. It's also great for connecting O2O, on offline to online, depending on your line of business, which also creates a very amazing micro moment, right? Next. So the last tip or tactic or strategy I want to share with you goes outside the concept of push delivery, but really touches upon the concept of reaching your users overall, right? We can never have 100% delivery, which is why Flows or Journey Builder is an awesome tool that you must use, yeah? So what Flow and Journey Builder does, it's an omni-channel approach to connecting with your user. It's a 360 marketing approach. And with new channels like WhatsApp coming into MoEngage, we hope that that will be part of this marketing stack. So my tip here is very simple. You want to layer your messages. You should try more than one time to connect with your customers, right? If you fail the first time, try again. Try your second push. If you fail your second push, try an email, yeah? If the email, gets lost somewhere in spam, then try SMS, yeah? So this kind of thinking and creating fallback strategies within CRM can really help boost your reach. And when you're able to boost your reach, incrementally over time, on the long run, you will build incremental sales, traffic, registrations, whatever business objective you are looking at. Yeah. So that's all I have for today. Next slide is just a summary of the key takeaways. I think hopefully everyone here after this session understands the factors that hinders push delivery, but most importantly, the technology that is available to us, and also the tactics and strategies for us to boost app engagement so that you can also increase delivery. Thank you.